So in this video we will study about the metals, non-metals and metalloid, and we have gone through with the metal, non-metal and metalloid in previous class, but here we will see about some more detail about what is the trend of metal, non-metal and metalloid in the periodic table. So basically this is a periodic table, and mostly you can see this arrow shows increasing metallic character. So if we will go from right to left, the elements have more metallic properties, and if you will go from left to right, elements will have less metallic properties. And if you will go from top to bottom, increasing metallic character. So when we will go from top to bottom in the group, the metal properties will increase of each elements. Let's see some more. And metal, how the metal differ from the non-metals. Metal tend to form cations, means positive ions. Non-metal tend to form anions, means negative ions. And note the special property of hydrogen, but hydrogen have kind of it behave like a metal as well as non-metal both. And these elements have more metallic properties, and there are stair-like elements. They are not shown here, they are metalloid, and these elements are the non-metals which have the negative ions, and all you can see these metals also showing the positive ions. So some of the metals did not show here, and these are the most common metals you will encounter in your class in this course. That is why they are showing hydrogen ion, lithium ion, sodium ion, potassium ion, rubidium, magnesium, calcium, etc., zinc, cadmium, palladium, platinum, gold. So these are all these metals have a tendency to form positive ions, and the non-metals, hydrogen, have both tendency minus and plus ion formation. Nitride, fluoride, chloride, bromide, iodide. So these are all negative ions, usually anions formed by non-metals. So this is the one difference between the metals and non-metals. And then let's see more detail about the metals. So most of the elements in nature are metals. Properties of metals. What are the properties? They have shiny luster, they shine very nicely, and they conduct heat and electricity. They are malleable. Malleable means can be hammered and pressed permanently to change the shape. And ductile. Ductile means can be stretched to make their thin wires, like copper wire, iron wire, like that. Solid at room temperature except mercury. So mercury, you may have seen or heard about the mercury thermometer. So that is the only metal which is in the liquid form. All the metal have low ionization energies. It means they can easily form the cations, means positive ions, and they can easily lose the electrons. They have low electron affinity, and means you can add electron easily, and each react with non-metals to form ionic compounds. So react with non-metals to form ionic compounds. Whenever the metal and non-metal react to form, they made ionic compounds. So let's see some more properties of metals and regarding the metal chemistry. So compound form between metals and nonmetals tend to be anionic, and metal oxide tend to be a basic and react with acid. So here is an example. This shows that this solid powder, which is a nickel oxide react with nitric acid and water. So insoluble in water, nickel oxide, but when nickel oxide is insoluble in water but react with acid HNO3 to give green solution of salt nickel nitrate. So compounds formed from between the metals and nonmetal tend to be anionic. So nickel nitrate is an ionic compound and it is dissolved, that is why it's giving some color. And metal oxide, for an example here, nickel oxide is tend to be a basic and react with acid. So all the metal oxide, they are basic in nature and then they can easily react with acid. So this is the one metal chemistry properties regarding the metal oxide. Next is reaction of metal oxide. Most metal oxides are basic, which we have seen just now, and metal oxide, when some metal oxide react with water, form metal hydroxide. Sodium oxide is a metal oxide example. When it react with water, it forms sodium hydroxide. Another, when it react with acid, it work as an base, and acid, they work as a neutralization reaction. So they neutralize each other and then form salt and water. So this is very important, that all the metal oxides are in basic in nature and they react with acid to form salt water, and when they react with water, they form metal and metal hydroxide. Metal hydroxide they form. So this was about the metal, and then we'll see about the nonmetals. What are the properties of nonmetals? So nonmetals are found on the right hand side of the periodic table, which we have seen this side. And properties of nonmetals include the following: they are not luster, they do not have any shiny luster. They are solid, liquid and gases, depend on the elements, but mostly metals are solid except mercury. And here nonmetals can be solid, liquid and gases. Solid are dull, brittle, poor conductor of heat and electricity. So solids are dull and brittle, means if you will hammer them, they will become powder. And they are poor conductor of heat and electricity. Relatively low melting and boiling points. They have low melting and boiling points. Large negative electron affinity, so they form anions readily. So there is a large negative electron affinity, so they can form anions readily, means they accept the electron very easily. Let's see the non-metal chemistry. A substance containing only nonmetals are molecular compound. So molecular compound formed by only nonmetals and nonmetal. And most nonmetal oxides are acidic. So this is the just opposite example. Metals oxide are basic in nature and non-metal oxides are acidic in nature. So we'll see some example here. This shows like a dry ice, which is a carbon dioxide gas. When react with base, it form salt and water and it releases the water vapor. So most non-metal oxides are acidic. Non-metals oxides plus water acid. So whenever the, like for an example, if you will dissolve this carbonic acid, carbon dioxide gas, which is a dry ice, in water, it form carbonic acid H2CO3. And non-metal oxide, for example carbon dioxide gas, when react with base, so non-metal oxides are acidic in nature. When they react with the base, they form salt and water. So this is the main difference between the metal oxide and non-metal oxides. So metal oxides are in basic in nature and non-metal oxides are in acidic in nature. So this you have to remember it. And last one is the metalloid, and before that here is a summary of or table between the difference between the metals and non-metals. So characteristic properties of metals and non-metals. Metals have shiny, luster, various color, although most are silvery, and non-metals do not have any luster and various color. Solid are malleable and ductile, means you can permanently change their shape and stretch and make a wire. But solid are usually brittle, some are hard and some are soft. Metals have good conductor of heat and electricity, and non-metals are poor conductor of heat and electricity. Most metal oxides are ionic solid that are basic, and most non-metal oxides are molecular substance that form acid solutions. Metal tend to form in aqueous solution, cation in aqueous solution. So metal have tendency to form cations, positive ions in the aqueous solution, but non-metals have tendency to form anions or oxyanion in aqueous solutions. So these are the main characteristics difference between the metals and non-metals. And here is the metalloid. So metalloid have some characteristics of metal and some characteristics of non-metals. So they are like together. They have some properties of metal, some properties of non-metals both. And several metalloid are electrical semiconductor and mostly used in computer chips and some other electronic applications. So this was about the metal and non-metal trend and their characteristics and difference between. And in the next video we'll talk about the group trend